Hello, hello, John here, and I'm responding to the video, deconversion video about the deconversion, the disbelief in God. First thing to say is that I was really moved by it, and I could see how heartfelt your belief in God was. So in this video I'm responding by, I'm wanting to look at a number of things. I want to look at the idea of experiencing and how we experience. I want to look at the relationship between experience and paradigms or interpretive frameworks about experience. And I'm also, in doing that, I'm going to share some of my own personal experiences as well. And then I'm going to leave perhaps with a question to ask. So, experience. Some of you may know that I was a fairly sort of fundamentalist Pentecostal Christian, and that changed, if you like, when on reading the scriptures I was sort of honest with myself and said, well, some of these scriptures, like wholesale slaughter of the Amalekites, etc., just seem very immoral. Other parts of the Bible seem highly moral and indeed. But overall, I came to disbelieve the fundamentalist assertion that the Bible was the Word of God in written form. Now, like you, I also had lots of experiences, and many of those experiences were parallel to the experiences described in Scripture. So, I want to look briefly, therefore, at the relationship between experience and paradigms, or how we interpret that experience. I'm going to start by quoting Einstein and others, and he said this: logic of itself cannot tell us anything about the nature of experience. About the nature of the world in which we live. He said everything starts from experience and ends with experience. And if you think about this in relation, for example, to children and child development, a baby starts off experiencing, first and foremost, before they develop their intellectual capacity. And that intellectual capacity is developed through interaction with adults, and it starts off by fixing or by using language to symbolize and carry forward experience. So the experience of hunger, for example, is first expressed through crying and discomfort, and hopefully mother finds what the baby's after. The baby might be cuddled, or they might comfort and cuddle the baby. Baby still cries because the baby knows that it's hungry. Mother offers her breast. The baby doesn't have to learn to suck the breast for milk. The breast is prepared for the baby prepared for the breast. Babies have innate, inbuilt knowledge. We're interactional, interrelational. And as babies grow up, they start to use language to carry forward experience, and they use logic. But everything starts from experience and ends with experience. Now, this is not directly about God, but you and I think we've both had experiences which we might describe as God experiences, numinous experiences of something that feels transcendent. And the question surfaces, how do we interpret that experience? And what's the relationship between experience and interpretive frameworks of understanding or paradigms? Now I'm going to share with you. It's not directly about God, but it's a very personal experience of mine. And it's to do with when I gave the talk at my mother's funeral. Now, when I gave that talk, I felt an inner compulsion to give that talk. And as I gave that talk, I had this very vivid experience. And that experience felt like the presence of my mother there, inspiring my words, inspiring the things that I said. The presence of my mother loving me, willing me on, very pleased that I said the things that I did. And how do I interpret that experience? How do other people interpret that experience? Well, my friend Steve, who is a very good friend, has a materialistic assumption. He assumes that material reality is primary, that consciousness springs from material reality and is dependent upon it. That's what he assumes, and that when we die, we die. And he said, you're thinking about Mum, you were remembering her, you were feeling things. Isn't it natural that you should have wrongly assumed that she was there? It doesn't mean she was there. Now my response was this. The first response was that, of course, from his materialistic perspective, from his materialistic beliefs, that was a natural conclusion. But from a neutral perspective, if you like, I could say, well, the materialism could be correct, but a metaphysical interpretation could also be correct. Supposing consciousness is actually interrelational with reality, with material reality, but not totally dependent upon it. Supposing there is indeed a consciousness that helps us survive death, that survives the death of the body. Now, both of those paradigms adequately explain my experience. Now, the materialistic belief that there is no life after death, if it's true, it's unverifiable, since there's no one to survive who verifies it. If it's untrue, it's falsifiable, because you may survive death and then falsify it. The metaphysical assumption or belief that maybe there can be something that survives death, if true, is verified. If it's false, it's not falsified, because there's no one to falsify it. It's what John Hick, the philosopher, called it's not just a strictly logical proposition, but it's a meta-personal proposition. It needs a person to verify or falsify it. And in terms of, and you can apply this to our experiences of God, if you believe in materialism, you will go with the explanation is just a product of our brains. If you hold to a neutral perspective, then you may say, well, that could be true, but the metaphysical explanation that the real entity could be true could also be true. Now, in terms of my numinous experiences, they enrich my life. Materialism is unverifiable, unfortunately, you can't verify it, neither can you absolutely verify metaphysics. So, in the circumstances, given choice, either choice is a faith position, I think. There's nothing inherently scientific about materialism. There's nothing inherently unscientific about metaphysics. Either of them could be true. And my felt sense is that maybe the metaphysics, the belief that there is something else, is true. It's a faith position, but it's no more or less a faith position than my friend's materialism. Anyway, that's my food for thought. Thanks.